Shiro immediately asks the furry if she sells scissors for gathering materials at her shop, and she replies that she doesn't have anything like that. She immediately figures out that Shiro is the gatherer everyone is talking about and says she can get him some good quality scissors. The furry introduces herself Ribble and says that their chief blacksmith is a true master and he can make any type of tools. However, if Shiro wants him to create scissors for him, he will need to find some things that he is looking for. Shiro is a bit confused by this, so Ribble leads him inside the store. He stops in his tracks as he sees 3 blacksmiths hard at work, and Ribble tells him that she fell in love with the way the blacksmiths pounded the red-hot iron. After that, she leads him to the boss of the shop, who is a grumpy old dwarf. Ribble introduces Shiro to him and suggests that he could bring some Ildra ore for them, which they desperately need to win the upcoming sword-making competition. The judgmental dwarf replies that he is not sending a mere gatherer into the dangerous mines, but Ribble says that they need to give him a chance. The dwarf and the furry begin arguing, and in the end Ribble dominates the old guy by pulling his beard and telling him they can't win the competition with a half-baked sword. The dwarf yells at her, saying that the mine is especially dangerous right now because there is news that demons are present there. He declares that the safety of his customers is his top priority, and that is why he can't send Shiro to the Ruhai mines. Ribble gets emotional on hearing how much the old-timer cares about their customers and apologizes to Shiro for wasting his time. However, Shiro puts a plate of cookies on the table, asking the chief blacksmith if he will make a pair of scissors for him if he can bring him some Ildra ore from the Ruhai mines. The dwarf panics on hearing this because he doesn't want to be blamed for anyone's death, but Shiro assures him that he is perfectly capable of protecting himself. He pulls out a crab claw from his pocket, and on realizing that it belongs to a B-rank monster, he agrees to let Shiro go to the mine. The next day, Shiro rides a carriage along with other adventurers as he heads to the Ruhai mines, and Bee keeps dancing because she is excited to go on a new journey. Meanwhile, the other adventurers talk about how strange things have been happening around the area recently, like plants withering out of nowhere and disturbing sounds coming out of forests. Shiro gets a little conscious on hearing this and wonders if these things are happening because of him, but he shakes those thoughts from his head. Once he gets off the carriage, he passes by a horse trader and begins thinking that he wants to own a horse someday. Suddenly, he hears a familiar voice from the building, yelling at the trader for scamming her. It turns out to be the stupid elf he saved in the forest earlier, and she is telling the trader that she ordered a strong white horse that could run so fast it could basically fly. However, the trader gives her a giant white bird instead, and the elf is not having it. The horse merchant tells her that they are very inclusive around these parts, and any creature that can carry cargo is called a horse, no matter what species it is. The elf girl immediately realizes that it was her mistake for thinking that a horse shop would sell horses. She apologizes for not wording her order more clearly because she actually wanted a Pegasus, and the merchant tells her that she can only find them in the Dwarven Kingdom. Shiro just hears the entire exchange from a distance because he doesn't want to get involved with the crazy woman again, even though they are both heading in the same distance. He decides to gather some materials along the way and immediately enters the forest to pick some shrooms and flowers. As he is picking the flowers, he hears a loud roar, but this time, he knows that it is not a monster. He follows the sound to find the elf woman almost passed out due to hunger yet again. He gives her some water and food, thinking that she must have a real smooth brain to not have learned anything from the previous incident. As soon as the elf finishes eating, she is full of energy and gets up to thank Shiro. However, he can't bear the terrible smell she gives off and instinctively uses the spell to clean her. She is pleasantly surprised by this and asks what did he do to her. Shiro replies he used a spell to clean her because she was ruining the image he has of elves as a race. The elf woman then introduces herself as Vel and thanks Shiro for saving her twice. He tells her it was no biggie and begins walking away, but Vel stops him, saying that elves always repay favors and she wants to help him somehow. Shiro clearly tells her that he doesn't need anything in return, so Vel insists that she will help him with his work in that case. Bee flies over to her and Vel remarks that even the dragon approves of her. Shiro decides there is no harm in letting her tag along till the next town, and he gets busy with collecting the mushrooms again. Vel soon comes to him saying that she found a rare monster poop that sells for a lot, but it is just a lot, and the next time, she brings the dung of a normal animal. Despite being disheartened twice, Vel believes the third time will be a charm and brings a poisonous mushroom with her instead. Later that evening, she offers to collect firewood to cook food, but Shiro tells her there is no need for that because he can use magic stones. However, Vel tells him that the signs of a campfire are helpful to other travelers who follow this route because it lets them know this is a safe space to camp. Shiro sees the logic in her argument and lets her collect wood, but Vel brings a big and thick log instead because that is how she likes them. Shiro tells her that they can't burn such a big log so easily, but Vel has him covered. She eats the log high in the air and then slashes it into smaller pieces using her dagger. Shiro is surprised on seeing this, but when he finds that Vel's daggers are rank weapons, things suddenly start making sense. After that, he cooks a delicious stew for everyone and Vel is blown away by the taste. She then asks Shiro if he is also heading to the Kingdom of Dwarves and he agrees, revealing that he is trying to mine Ildra ore from the Ruhai mines. He asks Vel why is she going to the Dwarf Kingdom, and she gets sad as she replies that she is looking for the white Pegasus of heaven that her sister wants to find. She doesn't let her sadness dampen the mood around the campfire and says that she is even more indebted to Shiro now. He gets an idea and asks her if she can be his bodyguard during the rest of his journey. Vel gets really excited at the idea to protect Shiro from all kind of evil enemies, but what he really wants is to learn helpful things like the firewood tip she gave him earlier. Vel is confused that he wants so little in exchange for feeding her, but she agrees to his offer. She acts like a dignified and graceful elf as she shakes hands with Shiro, who suddenly gets excited on seeing her like this. However, all that excitement of being with an elf goes down the drain when Vel starts snoring loudly and Shiro can't sleep. The next day, he continues the journey to the Dwarven Kingdom with zero sleep. As soon as they reach the border city, Shiro heads to an inn to try Dwarven cuisine, and Vel remarks that it is as delicious as her lizardman friend told her. Shiro tells her that he also has a lizardman friend and Vel begins boasting about her friend, who is the Holy Dragon Knight of the Stolfa's Empire. That phrase sounds similar to Shiro, and just then, Clay speaks out from the table behind him, asking Vel if she is talking about him. Shiro and Vel are surprised to see him there, and Clay remarks that it must be a work of fate that his two friends are traveling together. He then turns to Shiro, asking how could he be so heartless to leave the town without telling him, and Shiro nervously replies that he informed the guild. Clay is not satisfied with that answer and asks where is he going. Once he learns that Shiro is going to the Raihei mines, he starts lecturing him again, saying that adventurers at his rank can't even accept quests to go to such dangerous mines. He says that the place is extremely dangerous, and if Shiro is not getting a serious reward out of it, he should not go to the mines. Shiro proudly says that he is getting a good reward as a master blacksmith is going to make him the ultimate scissors for collecting ingredients. Clay is dumbfounded because this sounds like a stupid reward, but Shiro believes that if he is on good terms with the blacksmith, he will make him high-quality cooking utensils in the future. Clay calls him an idiot sandwich for accepting this offer, even as Shiro claims that scissors are the most important tool for a gatherer. Clay suddenly declares that he is going to come along on this quest because he is going to the dwarf country to repair his spear anyway. Shiro is not really comfortable with the idea, but then Vel eagerly asks Clay if he is also going to be Shiro's bodyguard too. She begins boasting about how she is going to protect Shiro till he reaches his destination. Clay likes the idea, and he decides to become a bodyguard as well. Shiro, however, is not happy about this situation. Even though he knows both Vel and Clay are quite strong, their personalities make him worried about his peace of mind. Soon after that, they reach the capital city of the dwarves, but there is a huge line outside the city gates. Luckily, Clay knows the guards and they let him and his friends use the special entrance reserved only for Vit. As they walk down a long flight of stairs, the guard gives them a lecture about the city's history. Once they reach the city, Shiro and Vel are amazed to see that the dwarves dug out a mountain to create this underground city. Meanwhile, the guard tells Clay that the king wanted to see him. Shiro is surprised to hear that Clay knows the king as well, and the lizardman replies that he is actually on good terms with the king even though he doesn't deserve it. The guard tells him to stop acting humble because he is the hero who saved their country. Clay says it was all a misunderstanding and explains the real story to Shiro. He says that back in the day, the dwarves were great at making weapons but terrible at using them. So a powerful demon oppressed them and collected tribute from them. One day, he was just passing by the area, and as soon as the dragon saw him, he flew away for some unknown reason. The dwarves thought that he forced the demon to run, and they began calling him a hero. Well, the guard says that the dwarves still think he is a hero, and they have even erected a statue of him recently, but Clay facepalms because they have made him look like Godzilla. Once they reach the palace, Clay immediately confronts the king about the weird statue, but the king says everyone in the country finds it cool. After that, the old king turns his attention towards Shiro and asks the reason for his visit. Shiro hands him a letter of introduction from the master blacksmith and requests permission to enter the Ryuhei mines. The king asks Shiro if he knows that the mines have become a den of demons after a recent earthquake, and he affirms. Clay tells the king that he is going to escort Shiro as his bodyguard, and he can also guarantee that Vel is strong enough to keep up with him. On hearing this, the king permits Shiro and his group to enter the Ryuhei mines and find the cause of the demon uprising there. Clay accepts the mission and Shiro complains that he doesn't want to go on an investigation mission. However, he doesn't have much say in this matter because Clay is the hero of the dwarves and he has already said yes. Soon, the three of them are led into the mines by a dwarf named Zanbo, and Shiro uses his spells to light up the dark cave. He then uses another spell to memorize the map Zanbo gave them so that he doesn't get lost, and both his bodyguards say he is doing impossible things again. Shiro ignores them and starts searching for the Ildra ore with his skills, but he can only find a small amount of low-quality ores. Zanbo is impressed that he could find the ores, and as Shiro suggests going deeper into the cave, B alerts him about incoming danger. Everyone gets into position and Shiro uses his search skill to verify B's alert. Just a second later, two spider monsters arrive there and Clay immediately takes down one of them with his spear. Shiro paralyzes the other one, giving Vel the chance to finish it off. They continue their journey after that and Shiro spots a huge amount of high-quality Ildra ore behind a dead end. He obtains permission from Zanbo and then blows a hole in the wall, leading them to an empty space filled with purple crystals. While Shiro thinks they are the Ildra ore he is after, Zanbo tells him they are Ildrite crystals, which are even rarer and more precious. Shiro fails to understand the importance of his discovery when B frantically warns him about incoming danger. Everyone goes out, and from the menacing footsteps, Zanbo can tell that a demon is approaching them. Shiro suddenly steps ahead, telling Clay and Vel to let him handle this enemy, because it is not an ordinary demon. It is a giant crab demon, and Shiro wants to hunt it down himself, because he wants to eat its delicious meat. B starts cuddling with him in celebration and Shiro tells her that he is also extremely happy right now. He is drooling because the crab in front of them looks really delicious, and he is so excited that he could eat its flesh raw. As the two of them dance like idiots, Clay and Vel are dumbfounded. Vel tells Shiro to stop getting distracted in front of the monster, and thanks to her intervention, he is able to notice the crab attacking him just in time to dodge its heavy claw. Clay and Vel tell Shiro that the crab in front of them is a rank monster, and they need to combine their strengths to take it down. However, Shiro decides to aura farm instead of letting them help because he doesn't want anyone else to call dibs on his perfect main course meat. He tells B to cover for him, but forbids him to use fire or lightning attacks. He then pulls out his staff from his bag and laughs like a maniac before casting a whole bunch of buffs on him. He casts spells to reduce his weight and increase his speed while also hardening his hands and feet. He then charges towards the crab with both Vel and Clay worried about him. B suddenly uses a sonic attack to immobilize the crab and confuse its senses. Shiro uses this chance and leaps at the crab, hitting it with his full strength. However, to his shock, his full power attack doesn't do any damage to the hard shell of the crab monster, who sends him flying with a simple strike. Shiro manages to land on his feet and luckily, he has not taken any damage yet. However, before he can try to attack again, the crab pushes him away. B comes into his rescue and uses an ice attack on the crab, freezing its leg on the ground to stop it from attacking. Shiro thanks B for his help and then scans the crab to find any weakness. He finds 3 joints where the crab is the weakest, and he immediately summons icicles to target them. B spins those icicles rapidly by coating them with wind magic, and Shiro sends them to attack the crab, completely freezing it. Everyone else is dumbfounded on seeing this, and as Shiro and B pray for the crab's soul, Vel and Zanbo check out the frozen crab. Clay, on the other hand, is furious that he didn't get a chance to fight, and Shiro nervously apologizes to him. He says that if they fought the monster normally, it would get covered in mud and blood, and that might ruin the edible parts. Clay is stunned on realizing that Shiro plans to eat a monster. But then he gets mad at another thing. He reminds Shiro that he is supposed to be his bodyguard, and if he goes ahead and fights the monsters himself, there is no point in him being here. Shiro feels a bit guilty about that, but replies that he is more used to fighting these types of monsters. Clay agrees with him, but he still reminds him that in situations like these, they need to work as a team to defeat their enemies. He asks Shiro to rely a bit more on him and Vel, and Shiro and B nervously apologize for not thinking about that on their own. Clay pats them to say that it is alright, and then decides they should haul the crab out of the cave first. Once they are done with that, Shiro and others mine the Ildrite crystals in the area, but he tells the dwarf guide that he is still getting readings from the deeper parts of the cave. He suggests that they can explore it to find an even larger amount of ildrite, and the dwarf Zanbo starts crying because Shiro found a new mineral vein for them. Seeing him like that, Shiro thinks that maybe all the bizarre changes that are happening all over the continent were because he met B's dad. He feels that his actions there changed the course of history, and now he finally realizes what the K-pop god wanted when he sent him to this world. As his friends start heading back, Shiro realizes that his selfish actions have already started changing the world, and he hopes that the change is a positive one. Soon, everyone returns to the castle and Shiro tells the king that they finished their investigation safely and even took down the biggest threat there. The king is delighted to hear that, but he still wants an official confirmation from Zanbo, who excitedly tells the king about the moment Shiro took down the crab monster. He then requests Shiro to show the monster to the king, and he decides to fulfill his request. He opens his magic bag, and the frozen crab pops out of it. The entire throne room rattles from the weight of the monster, and the king can't believe his eyes. He goes closer to fully absorb the size of the monster, and then declares that Shiro's brave act is worthy of a reward. Shiro immediately asks for the monster as his reward, and the king is shocked because he doesn't see any value in that. Soon after that, Shiro and his friends go out to the city, and Vel is happy because they got a lot of cash from the king. However, Shiro could care less about that because he is dreaming about all the ways in which he can cook the crab. Clay is a bit creeped out at the fact that both Shiro and B become Delulu at random moments, but Shiro tells him that the crab is going to be more valuable than he thinks. The next day, Vel receives a Pegasus as a gift from the king because he came to know that she was looking for one. Vel is delighted to see the winged horse, and in the meantime, Zanbo gives Clay his repaired spear. Vel rides on the Pegasus, telling Shiro that it is meant for her sister, so she will immediately head home with it. She tells him that she owes him a huge deal, and even if she spends her life trying to repay it, it might not be enough. Shiro replies that it is already sorted because he got a crab. Just then, their carriage arrives and Shiro wishes goodbye to Vel. She tells him that they will certainly meet again and files off with that. A few days after that, Shiro and Clay reach their city and Bunny Girl Senpai welcomes them back. She is surprised to see them together and asks if they formed a team. Shiro says that Clay just tagged along, but the lizardman interrupts him and declares that they have indeed formed a team. Aria is really excited on hearing this, and she immediately runs off to inform the guild master. While Shiro gives Clay a side-eye, Clay tells him that he has decided to tag along with him for longer, because he knows that Shiro is not just an ordinary human, and they need someone sensible to keep an eye on him. While Shiro is not really sure about teaming up with Clay, B already likes the idea and starts circling around him. After thinking about it for a while, Shiro also concludes that traveling with him won't be a bad idea, and they sit down to discuss their team's name. On Clay's suggestion, they decide to call themselves the Azure Black Brigade and officially register as a team. After that, Shiro goes to the blacksmith's workshop with the ildrite crystals. As Ribble and her master examine the crystal, Shiro asks if it is good enough to make the sword they want. They suddenly start trembling like an old Nokia, and Shiro panics, wondering if high-purity ildrite is more difficult to work with. However, the two blacksmiths suddenly start yelling and crying because they have never seen such high-purity crystals before. The master blacksmith says that he has never seen this much ildrite once in his 120 years as a blacksmith, and even B starts crying because he wants to be involved. Shiro is glad that they liked the crystals he brought for them, but then Ribble says that they can't pay him enough for all the ildrite. He tells them that his request is still the same, and he just wants a custom-made pair of scissors. However, he is ready to delay that for a while because he first wants Ribble and her master to create a sword that will win the sword forging tournament. Half a month later, as Shiro is enjoying lunch and drinks at an inn, the furry comes there with a letter from a noble who wants to see him immediately. Shiro doesn't want to get involved with a noble and pretends that he is having a heart attack in his kidneys, but Clay tells him to stop acting stupid. Even the furry assures him that Lord Belmonant is not an unpleasant guy, and Shiro decides to open his letter. He finds it addressed to both him and Clay because they are a team, and Lord Belmonant talks about bestowing honors on them. Shiro finds this suspicious and wonders what does he want in return, but Clay knows that the noble just wants to see the baby dragon. Shiro gets worried at this and hugs B, asking if the Belmonant wants to steal him. However, both Clay and the furry believe that Belmonant won't do that, and on top of that, he doesn't have the authority for that either. Soon after that, Shiro and Clay are taken to the Lord's mansion, is a fancy carriage, and everyone in the city keeps staring at them. Shiro wonders why are they so interested, and Clay replies that it is every adventurer's dream to be invited to a noble's mansion, because if a noble decides to back an adventurer, They are set for life. They soon reach the Lord's mansion and Shiro is flabbergasted on seeing the level of wealth. The carriage stops in front of the Lord's castle and a butler comes there to escort them in. A team of maids welcome them in and Shiro gets happy because he always wanted to be greeted by maids. Just then, an arrogant lowly brat comes running there and she immediately goes towards Shiro and B. She asks if this is the baby dragon and then says that she was expecting it to look a bit more intelligent. She suddenly points at B and says that the baby dragon belongs to her now. Shiro and B freak out on hearing this and B hides behind him. Shiro tells the spoiled lowly that she is being unreasonable and she tells him that dragons are noble creatures and only someone as noble as her can raise one. Shiro quickly realizes that the girl is immune to logic, so he scans her stats to find that her name is Tirish and she is the 14-year-old daughter of Lord Belmont. He wonders how to deal with this unreasonable girl and then decides to go soft on her. He kneels before Tirish and asks her why does she think she is entitled to the dragon. The girl nervously says that her butler told her that there was an adventurer with a dragon, so naturally, she wanted that. She says that the butler also told her that when dealing with stupid adventurers, she should act dignified and hold her ground. Shiro is pissed off at the butler now, but then he tells Tirish that B is his family and she shouldn't try to take him away. The girl is shocked to hear that, and as B responds to her, she is even more taken aback because she never thought the dragon baby was smart enough to understand human speech. She suddenly starts tearing up and apologizes to Shiro for speaking so rudely without realizing their bond. B flies over to pacify her and Tirish gets so happy that she hugs him. B immediately rushes back to Shiro, who asks the girl why did she want a dragon so badly. Tirish replies that she wanted to show it to her mom. Just then, her father arrives there and Shiro is dumbfounded on seeing how young and handsome he is, and he can't believe he is the noble who called him. The man introduces himself as Lord Belmont and greets Shiro, saying that he has heard a lot about him. They sit down for tea next and Belmont apologizes for his daughter's behavior first. Clay immediately gets to business and asks why he summoned them here and Belmont replies it is about his wife. Clay is shocked to hear this and explains to Shiro that Belmont's wife has been bedridden for a long time now. The noble affirms, saying that he recently heard a rumor about Shiro making a weak and sick man healthy in just one day, and he wanted to seek his help in treating his wife. Shiro thinks about it and feels that he needs to be really careful in treating the woman because his magic was powerful enough to make Clay evolve. Belmont then tells him that Tirish wants a dragon for her mother because she thought that if a cute creature stayed next to her, her health would improve. Clay starts trembling as he tries to hold back his tears on hearing this, and B can't even do that. Seeing them so emotional guilt trips Shiro into agreeing, but he still doesn't want to take any risks. However, after thinking for a while, he decides to save the woman's life and accepts the request. Belmont leads everyone to his wife's room and Shiro finds that it is incredibly dusty. Belmont's wife looks really pale and her bones are protruding through her skin. Shiro is shocked to see her and he asks the noble if he can brighten up the room before starting the treatment. He learns that the woman is allergic to sunlight, so he decides to scan her in the low light. He finds that her body has enough diseases to keep a full hospital busy treating her. He tells Belmont that he can treat most of her symptoms, but there is a condition called ivor poisoning that he has no idea about. He stays silent as he thinks about his options and then asks the noble that if he trusts an unknown adventurer with his wife's life. The woman has already given up hope to be cured and she just wishes to hold her daughter in her arms one last time. So Belmont decides to take the leap of faith and asks Shiro to save his wife. As Belmont pleads to save his wife Mule with tears flowing down his face, Shiro accepts his request. Clay asks Shiro if he is going to use the same method to heal the frail lady, but he refuses. The method he used earlier consumes a lot of mana to heal the body. But Mule doesn't have that right now, and she will probably die if he uses that method on her. He decides to treat her symptoms first, starting with her weak eyes that hurt even if a bit of sunlight enters the room. He uses the heal spell on her eyes, making sure that he doesn't use a lot of mana at once, because that will also hurt her. After a while of healing the eyes, Shiro asks Mule to open them. She gently opens her eyes, and to her utter delight, her vision is much better now. She is happy about this result already, but Shiro has more to offer. He takes out his staff from his bag and then uses a spell to create the entire room in one go. The powerful spell blows out all the dirt from the room and opens the windows at the same time. As the sunlight pours into the room, Belmont asks his wife if she is fine, and she starts crying as she says that the sunlight doesn't hurt her eyes anymore. While the two of them celebrate this joyous occasion with tears in their eyes, Shiro notices a butler and some maids staring at them from behind. He feels something is really odd about the butler and tells Belmont that they should go somewhere else to talk. Once they reach Belmont's study, Shiro reveals that Mule is suffering from something called iver poisoning. Belmonent immediately realizes that someone is poisoning her on purpose. But there is something that worries him even more than that. Shiro tells him that because he doesn't know the details about iver poison, he can't fully cure Mule. He asks Belmonent if he can get the antidote for it from somewhere, and the noble gets depressed as he replies that there is no antidote. Iver poison is an ancient poison that was considered lost to time, and the knowledge about the antidote is lost too. Shiro replies that if someone else can make the poison now, the knowledge still exists, and they should try to recreate the poison to find an antidote. Clay replies that they don't even know what ingredients are used to make the poison, but just then, Belmonent comes up with an idea. He reveals that his ancestors gathered important historical records as a hobby, and they might contain some information they need. However, most of those documents are in an ancient language that no one can understand now. Luckily, that is not a problem for Shiro, whose language translation skill lets him translate the ancient text into Japanese. He still doesn't know which books are helpful, so he narrows his search to keywords about poison, and finds one book that has information about the iver plant. However, Shiro finds it odd, because it is a diary entry written by someone called Pola Pola, who claims to be the cutest adventurer ever. Shiro decides to completely get into character and acts like a cringe Delulu teenager while reading the diary. According to it, Pola found a big rock shaped like a winged horse near a huge lake, and next to the rock, there were sparkling golden flowers. Clay immediately shuts Shiro's mouth before he can spread more cringe brain rot, and then tells Belmonent that he knows the location mentioned in the diary. He brings out a map and points to a lake outside Belmonent's territory that has a Pegasus statue. He says they might find the iver flower there, but unfortunately, the place is 5 days away even by a carriage. Shiro says that they will leave immediately, and Belmonent starts making arrangements for that, while the nerdy butler watches over them and sends out a messenger pigeon. In the meantime, Shiro puts a barrier magic stone outside Mule's room, telling Belmonent that this is to protect his wife in case someone tries to harm her. Just then, Tirish comes running and apologizes to Shiro for being rude to him earlier. He tells her that her words were really harsh, but he will forgive her because she realized her mistake on her own. He tells her to develop the important skill of admitting her mistakes because that will help her grow as a person, and also asks her to take her time and think things through instead of rushing to a conclusion. Tirish promises she will do that, and then Shiro says that once he is gone, someone might try to turn her against him by calling him a villain or a scammer. He wants her to report the matter to her dad instead of believing what she is told, because that will help avoid any unfortunate incidents. With that, Shiro and Clay get on their unicorns and rush to their destination. Shiro casts spells to reduce weight and increase weight on all of them, and the horses start galloping much faster than he thought. They reach the location quickly, but it is an utter disappointment to Shiro. Clay informs him that there was a prosperous village here the last time he came around, but things seem to have gotten worse suddenly. Shiro hopes that the lake has not dried up because of the drought, but Clay assures him that the lake is too big to evaporate entirely. However, the lake is in an even more critical condition than the surrounding areas. The water seems polluted, and there are dead trees inside the lake. Shiro examines the lake and finds that it has been poisoned using a toxin found in the horns of Garanode buffalo monster. Shiro tells Clay that it looks like someone deliberately poisoned the lake, but before he can elaborate, the villagers arrive there ready to fight off the intruders. Shiro takes one look at the weak and terrified villagers and approaches them to talk things out peacefully. He says they are adventurers on a quest to gather rare material, and the villagers can't believe him so easily. However, when Clay shows his rank armband, the villagers immediately drop their weapons. Shiro asks them if they can tell him more about what happened here. But just then, one guy collapses because of weakness. Shiro finds that his body is incredibly light and immediately guesses that the villagers don't have enough to eat. The villagers first take him to the village, which is in shambles because of the drought. They tell Shiro that 10 months ago, the lake suddenly became poisoned and the fish died. The groundwater also became too polluted to use, and everyone was in a desperate situation. Right at that time, a merchant named Ngash arrived at the village and offered to save it in exchange for the golden flower that grows near the lake. The location of the flower was a secret that their village had guarded for a long time, because it was considered a divine flower. However, they were desperate and agreed to give Ngash one flower each month in exchange for 60 barrels of water. That is enough for them to drink, but not enough for the crops, and that is why the villagers have been starving for a long time. Shiro understands the situation now and tells the villagers that Ngash sounds like a villain. They refuse to believe him because Ngash is the one helping them out. But Shiro tells them to use their brain for once and think about how sus the timing of his arrival was. He reveals that the lake was poisoned by someone on purpose, and the culprit can't be anyone else than Ngash, who is demanding a poisonous flower each month in exchange for water. The villagers feel their entire belief system shattering on hearing this, but Shiro is furious. He swears to crush and gash and his evil schemes himself. But before that, he decides to help out the starving villagers. He asks B to use his spirit magic, and the baby dragon flies above the clouds, using his magic to make it rain. After a bit of rain has given the villagers some water and a lot of hope, Shiro tells B to stop. He then gives everyone an instant shower because they haven't washed in months now. The villagers are stunned at this, but Shiro doesn't stop there and uses his magic to repair their houses. Next, he pulls out his giant wok and cooks a delicious stew for the entire village. Once everyone is fulfilled, the village chief thanks Shiro, asking how can they ever repay him. Shiro replies that they can just let him harvest the ivory flowers because he has to prepare an antidote urgently. The village chief is ready for that, but as he begins thinking about something, the kids come there and tell Shiro to play with him. The chief tells him to go away because they are busy right now. But Shiro tells him that it is fine because he likes seeing kids act healthy and playful. He follows the kids to their secret base, which is basically a warehouse to collect the litas fruits that grow nearby. The leader of the kids explains that only the nectar from the flowers tastes sweet, and the fruits are very salty, so they throw them out. Shiro tries to see if his skills can find anything about the fruit, but only a blank screen turns up. However, he sees a familiar-looking brown liquid oozing out of the fruits, and as he tastes it, he remembers the taste of soy sauce that he had been missing all this time. At the same time in Belmonent's mansion, Tirish rushes to her mother's room on hearing the sound of an alarm. Before leaving the mansion, Shiro had installed a special magic alarm in the room that would be triggered if anyone with ill intentions tried to come inside. Tirish wonders who the hell could it be, but as she reaches the room, she finds the shady butler Bernard there. She is scared of him and tells him to stay away from her, and Bernard asks what is wrong. She asks him if he is trying to kill her mother, and Bernard calmly asks her why would she even think that. Tirish reveals that Shiro set up an alarm to detect hostile intentions, and the butler starts mocking him. He says that adventurers are mannerless, greedy jerks, and Tirish shouldn't take them seriously. He says that Shiro is just after money, and he is setting up fancy but useless alarms to extort money from her father. Tirish refuses to believe a single bad thing about Shiro, but Bernard asks her if she is going to trust a random adventurer, or a butler who has served her family loyally for years. The girl starts panicking at this, but luckily, Belmonent arrives there just in time. Tirish rushes to him and says that she has something important to report. Belmonent hears both Tirish and Bernard's side of the story in his office, and he agrees with the butler that Shiro might be trying to scam them. However, it is a fact that Shiro made Mule better, and his alarm is indicating that Bernard is a danger to her. That is why he decides to put things to the test. The head butler brings a jug of water into the office just then, and Bernard panics on seeing it. Belmonent pours him a glass, saying that he doesn't have any way to figure out who is the actual enemy, so he will start by making Bernard prove his innocence. He tells Bernard to drink the special water that he always brings, claiming that it will speed up Mule's recovery. The butler starts getting flustered at this, and then Belmonent splashes the water on his face. Bernard starts screaming like a bitch, saying that the water is poisoned, but turns out Belmonent just played a prank on him. He drinks the water because it is just normal tap water, and the poison that Bernard was giving to Mule has already been sealed away. Belmonent then orders his guards to take the criminal away, and after that, the head butler gives him a letter that he found in Bernard's room just now. Belmonent is shocked because the letter is written in a code language, and he realizes that whoever is behind it is quite smart. At the same time, the merchant in Gash goes to the village and begins knocking on the chief's door. As one of the villagers comes to see what is going on, he is shocked to see the merchant, who claims he is here to get the flower earlier this time. The villager first tells him that the chief is taking some adventurers out on a tour, and then recalls that the flower is poisonous. He tells Ngash that they can't let him have it anymore, and turns out the merchant was prepared for this. He immediately calls his goons, telling them to end things quickly. Meanwhile, the village chief leads Shiro and Clay through a secret cave, bringing them to the location where the golden ivory flowers grow right next to the statue of a Pegasus. Shiro is amazed by the beautiful scenery in front of him, and once he is done looking at the Pegasus statue, he decides to analyze the ivory flowers. He learns that the ivory flowers bloom only on the shores of this particular lake because they were created from the tears of the divine beast Hoffel. Shiro asks the village chief about the divine beast and learns that Hoffel is the winged horse who protected the village from the lake demons. Their ancestors started worshipping it as their guardian deity ever since that day, and everyone in the village knows the story about the ivory flower being created from Hoffel's tears. Shiro asks the old man if it is really fine for him to take something with so much value, and he replies that as the savior of their village, Shiro can take as many flowers as he wants. Shiro is glad to hear this, and he uproots just one flower, thinking that it will be enough to create an antidote. He starts thinking about experimenting with the soy sauce fruit already, but his thoughts are disrupted when he hears someone screaming nearby. In a few seconds, a villager arrives there, out of breath and panicking, because the village has been set on fire by the merchant Ingash. Shiro and Clay carry the chief and the other villager on their backs as they race to the village. They are greeted by a horrifying scene as all the houses in the village are burning. Shiro wastes no time and immediately starts putting out the fire with Bee's help. While Clay evacuates the villagers, they manage to get the situation under control quickly, but the houses are reduced to rubble by the time the fire goes out. The village guard informs Shiro that no one was seriously injured, and that is the best news they could hope for. Shiro asks how did the fire start, and the guard tells him that Ingash came to the village and demanded the ivory flowers. However, since he knew that the flowers are poisonous, he refused to give them to him, and the merchant told his lackeys to set the village on fire. Shiro is furious at the evil merchant when suddenly, the chief starts panicking because he can't find the boy named Gonza. Shiro remembers Gonza as the kid who opened up to him quickly, and he begins suspecting that Ingash took him hostage. An old granny immediately confirms that, revealing that Ingash took Gonza towards the lake when everyone was panicking because of the fire. Shiro's rage boils over on hearing this, and he immediately uses his search skill at maximum range. He locates human signals at an abandoned fortress nearby and tells Clay that Ingash has at least 100 goons working for him. Clay says that is not a problem as he gets on his unicorn. But the village chief tries to stop them both because it is too dangerous to face Ingash. Shiro assures him that they are strong enough to handle the merchant and his henchmen, and he promises that he will bring back Gonza safely. Soon, they reach the fortress and B scouts the area to find that all the bandits are partying. While Shiro tries to come up with a plan, Clay turns into Kaiju number 8 because he can't forgive bastards who would throw a party after kidnapping someone. Shiro understands that he has good reason to be angry, but he tells him to calm down because if they attack without a plan, Gonza might be in danger. Shiro suddenly comes up with a plan and casts an invisibility spell on himself and Clay. Thanks to that, they easily sneak past the two drunk guards and then knock out another drunkard who had come to refill his booze. Clay senses that all the bandits have gathered above them and Shiro decides to stay invisible for as long as possible while dealing with them. Clay agrees and then points out that Shiro has been gathering everything he finds in the fortress, which he claims is to find proof for the bandits' crimes. They start searching for Gonza, but even when they have searched all the rooms, they don't find any clue. Clay decides that it is time for them to talk to the main culprit and get the boy's location from him, and Shiro agrees. They reach the room where Ingash and his men are partying, and one of them starts laughing while talking about how pitiful the villagers looked when their houses were burned. Another bandit says that it was unfortunate that they couldn't get the location of the flowers, but a third and even more arrogant bandit replies that they kidnapped Gonza for that purpose only. He laughs, saying that now that they are at the last stage of their plan, they can easily raise the price of the ivory poison and score a huge profit. Another bandit asks him how the price of the poison will be increased, and the arrogant one replies that once news spreads that even someone as rich and influential as Belmonent could not save his wife after she was infected with ivory poison, people will realize how powerful it is. Many people will try to get ivory poison to kill their enemies, and then they can increase the price however much they want. Just as the bandit finishes saying this, a bottle hits the back of his neck and knocks him out. It was Ingash who threw the bottle to remind everyone that this plan is top secret and they should not talk out loud about it. Shiro and Clay hear all this from outside the room, and Clay says that he can no longer control his rage. Shiro gives him the green signal to cause a rampage, but tells him not to kill anyone. Clay immediately cancels the invisibility and destroys the door, causing the bandits to panic. Clay starts wreaking havoc inside the room, knocking down bandits with each punch, and Ingash panics on seeing this. He tells one of the bandits to bring out their secret weapon, even though it is not fully under their control right now. As Ingash wonders how did it all turn like this, Shiro appears next to him and suggests that they should move the kid away from danger first. Ingash thinks that it is one of his lackeys, so he reveals Gonza's location, but when he turns around, he is shocked to see no one around. In the meantime, Shiro rushes to the outhouse that is being guarded by just one bandit who is pissed that everyone else is partying, but he is still working. B volunteers to take him out, and Shiro gives him the permission. The baby dragon flies straight towards the bandit, crashing through the door and knocking him out. Shiro rushes into the outhouse and begins calling Gonza's name, who quickly replies. Shiro karate chops the lock of his cell and frees him, and Gonza runs into his arms, terrified and still crying. Shiro tells him that they will head back to the village immediately, But just as he gets out of the building, he finds the bandits running away in panic. He sees a bunch of tentacles rising above the fortress wall, and he is pretty sure that it is not Clay. He stops a bandit and asks what is going on, and learns that the lake demon has attacked them. Shiro doesn't fully believe the bandit, but he decides to go and deal with the monster quickly. He asks Gonza if he can head back to the village himself, but the boy is too terrified to let go of him. Shiro realizes this too and asks Gonza to hold as tight as he can. He runs to the battle zone with a barrier around him and finds that the lake demon that Clay is fighting is just an oversized sea anemone. Shiro scans the monster to find that it is a B-rank monster called Dark Anemone, and it has been summoned by Ngash. Shiro turns to face Ngash, who is trembling in fear on the ground. He begs someone to save him, and Shiro Loki wants him to become monster feed. However, as the monster attacks Ngash, he uses a barrier to protect him from taking too much damage. Shiro decides to arrest the merchant and question him later, and tells Clay that they need to get out of here now. Clay is having a hard time dealing with the monster because of its endless tentacles, so Shiro decides to make the fight easy for him. He uses a powerful ice magic to freeze the dark anemone in its place, and Clay is impressed. However, Shiro tells him that the job is not yet done, and they need to crush the monster's brain to really kill it. Clay immediately charges up a powerful punch and hits the monster in the face. But instead of killing it, the punch triggers a self-defense mechanism in the monster. It straightens its frozen tentacles and launches them towards Shiro, who doesn't have enough time to create a barrier. He somehow blocks the direct attack using his staff, but the force is enough to throw him and Gonza over the wall. Shiro grabs Gonza and tosses him high up so that B can catch him, while he falls into the poisoned lake instead. As he starts drowning in the poisoned water, Shiro thinks that this is the end for him. He feels that he could not abandon someone in need and instead threw away his life. That does not make him sad, but he feels that now he cannot do so many things that he really wanted to. Luckily, the black-haired K-pop god sees him drowning, and he decides to bail him out this time because Shiro is having a really good impact on this world. As Shiro starts thinking about all the different food items he wanted to make with soy sauce, a voice calls out to him. However, he doesn't pay attention to that voice and keeps thinking about his friends and his custom-made scissors that he still has not got. The person calling him gets impatient when Shiro keeps ignoring them again and again, so they yank him out of the water. Shiro is shocked to see that the one who rescued him is a white Pegasus, who tells him not to die on her. Shiro doesn't understand what is going on, so he introduces himself, and the Pegasus introduces herself as Hoffel. Shiro remembers that name, but he has forgotten where he heard it. He starts making small talk with Hoff, asking if this place is her home, and then apologizes for falling into it. Hoff tells him that it is a good thing that he fell inside because the water of the lake has suddenly started getting purified. The plants near the lake also revive, and Shiro can't believe his eyes. Hoff tells him that it was all because of him. She explains that a long time ago, the magic element of the lake got stagnant, and because of that, she became weak. With her last bit of strength, she created the Ivor flowers to keep the lake purified, and as a result, her body turned to stone. The Ivor flowers lived even after her, purifying the lake, but then Ngash came and polluted it on purpose. However, when Shiro fell into it, he absorbed the poison and helped Hoff get free from her petrification. With that, Hoff takes Shiro back to his friends, and he tells them that the Pegasus god saved him. However, no one except him can see or hear Hoff, and she thanks Shiro for helping her before disappearing. With that, Shiro and others return to the village and reunite Gonza with his people. Next, Shiro creates a circle using some magic stones and tells Clay to stand inside it with him. Clay has his doubts about it, but he decides to trust Shiro, who activates the magic circle that teleports him directly to Belminant's mansion. There, he quickly whips up an antidote for Ivor poisoning, and Mule gets cured of the poison just from one sip of the medicine. Everyone starts crying tears of joy on this occasion, but Shiro's work is not yet over. He goes back to the village that is being rebuilt from scratch and tells the chief that he turned in Ngash to the local lord along with a lot of evidence, so he will never get out of jail again. The village chief is moved to tears on hearing this and asks Shiro how can they ever repay him. Shiro has an idea about it, and he starts by giving the chief a demo. He puts butter and soy sauce on a steamed potato and tells the chief to try it. He is immediately blown over by its taste, and then Shiro starts his business pitch. He asks the chief to sell all of their soy sauce fruits to him, and they can use the money to expand the fields growing these fruits. The old man agrees to that, but tells Shiro that he won't be able to use all the fruits. Shiro reveals that he plans to make soy sauce popular in big cities, and then it will become a specialty of their village. With that, he treats everyone to the soy butter potatoes and then heads on his way. He reunites with Clay after that, and as they are talking about the mission, Hoff suddenly descends before them. Shiro is taken aback to see her, but then Hoff shocks him even more by turning into a pretty girl and declaring that she is going to join his group now. Shiro and Clay are baffled by this, and Clay asks her why would a god want to travel with an outrageous human. Hoff replies that she has stayed in one place for too long, and now she wants to explore the world. She feels that it will be fun if she hangs around Shiro, and in return, she is willing to let him ride her, but only as a horse, while Hoff is really excited about the journey. Shiro is pretty sure that things are going to be more troublesome for him from now on.